There was a Sunday school teacher asked her class to draw pictures of their favorite Bible stories. She was puzzled by one drawing. It showed four people on airplane. Teacher asked the kid, "What Bible story is that?" The kid replied, "It is the flight to Egypt." Teacher asked, "I see, and that must be Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, but who is the fourth person?" The kid answered, "Oh, that is Pontius the Pilate." Dear friends, in Jesus Christ, the solemnity of Corpus Christi is celebrated today for us to take some time and reflect on the meaning of what we celebrate every time so as not to fall into the error of seeing the Eucharistic celebration as a mere routine arising from over familiarization. Today's gospel describes the moment when Jesus gave the gift of the Eucharist to his disciples. It was Jesus' last meal with them on the evening before he was crucified. It was the last in a whole series of meals that Jesus shared with all sorts of people, with his disciples and friends, with those considered sinners, with the religious leaders. At all these meals, Jesus gave himself, gave something of God to those present. Sometimes he gave God's loving mercy to those who had been labeled sinners by others. Sometimes he gave God's word to those present, a word that brought comfort to many and disturbed others. At this Last Supper, Jesus gave himself to his disciples in a way that was distinctive and memorable. He took the bread that was on the table, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my body." He then took the cup of wine, blessed it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my blood, the blood of the new covenant." He identified all of himself, body and blood, with a simple fare of bread and wine that was on the table, and he called on his disciples to consume them. He wanted to give himself to his disciples and through them to all of us, to disciple of every age, and he wanted them and us to receive the gift of himself, to take him and all he stands for into our lives. The Last Supper may have been the last in a whole series of meals, but Jesus also intended to be a beginning, the beginning of what we come to call the Eucharist. That is why the earliest account of the Last Supper in one of St. Paul's letters and also in Luke's Gospel, Jesus goes on to say, "Do this in memory of me." In other words, repeat what I have said and done. Before his death, Jesus was giving his followers a gift through which he would always be present to future disciples in a way that was unique. At the Last Supper, there was a giving and taking. The the Lord's giving and the disciples' taking. That is true of every Eucharist. The Lord's giving of himself in love to his disciples at the Last Supper looked ahead to the gifts of he would make of himself to them, to all humanity, the following day. On the cross, he gave his body and blood, his entire self, out of love for us all. The love that shone through Jesus on the cross was shining through him at the Last Supper and continues to shine through him at every Eucharist. The Lord comes to us in the Eucharist to catch us up into the rhythm of his own self-giving love. He comes to us so that he can live and through us, so that his attitudes and values can take flesh in our daily lives. So let us always receive the Eucharist with reverence and love. Allow the gift of the Holy Eucharist to fill us with love, joy, peace, and healing. It is true that we become what we eat, and allow the love of the Eucharist to transform us.